The monitors click in a steady rhythm. Fluorescent light hums. A white-haired man lies in bed for Henry Lancaster, 81, a name that moves big checks in this city. His wife stands guard at the footrail. Margaret Lancaster, diamond studs, cold eyes. She holds a clipboard like a shield. A child stops at the doorway. Zuri Evans, 7, black, hair in 2 neat puffs. Thrift store dress with tiny flowers. She holds a single marigold and a folded prayer on wide-ruled paper. "Excuse me," Zuri says. Voice soft, clear. "I brought a flower. I want to pray." Margaret turns. She studies the child from shoes to hair. Her mouth tightens. "No," Margaret says. "No visitors." Nurse Kamara steps between them. Brown skin, blue scrubs, calm hands. "Mrs. Lancaster, it is 1 minute. Family-only rule has exceptions. Compassionate care. Not today," Margaret says. "We are not a charity." Zuri looks down at the marigold. She looks back up. "I know him," she says. "Not from TV. From breakfast." The room pauses. The nurse frowns. "Breakfast?" Zuri nods. "At school. The trays came when the letters stopped. Then a letter came again. It said, 'No child should sit hungry in a room of words.' It had his name, Henry L. Margaret stiffens. "I write the checks." Zuri holds up the folded page. "We got one with his handwriting. It said breakfast first." Her mother steps closer to the door. Tasha Evans, housekeeper at the hospital. Dark t-shirt, work badge, scuffed shoes. She stands 2 steps back, so she does not crowd anyone. "Ma'am," Tasha says. She is not here for selfies. She wants to pray. 1 minute. A man in a slate suit moves in from the hall. Dr. Peter Whitaker, hospital administrator. Pale tie, polished smile. "Policy is clear," Whitaker says. "Family only." Nurse Kamara keeps her voice level. "Policy also allows pastoral moments when requested by the patient or when the family does not object." "I object," Margaret says. Zuri breathes in. She stands straighter. Her fingers shake, but she does not hide them. She speaks to Margaret without heat. "Your husband fed me," Zuri says. "Let me feed his hope." Monitors tick. The air feels thin. Henry stirs. His lids flicker. A dry sound leaves his throat. 1 word. "Flower." Nurse Kamara steps to the bed. "Mr. Lancaster, squeeze my hand if you want the child to come closer." His fingers twitch. Once. Then again. Margaret watches the movement. She looks at Zuri's small hand around the marigold stem. She looks at the prayer. Her jaw sets harder. "No," Margaret says. "This is manipulation." Zuri swallows. She takes 1 small step over the threshold. Security guards shift at the nurse's station. At 4 minutes. Watch till the end to see what happens to Zuri and Margaret. Stay with this. Subscribe to follow how truth shifts power in this room. Whitaker holds up a hand. Step back. Nurse Kamara speaks to him low. "There is no harm in 60 seconds. Whitaker looks toward legal on a phone. He shakes his head and points to the door. "Remove her." Zuri lifts the marigold. She holds it to her chest like a promise. "My line is for him," she says. The line that brought breakfast. "No child should sit hungry in a room of words." He wrote it. I remember every letter. Margaret opens her mouth to snap back. Before she speaks, a second voice comes from the doorway behind Zuri. Big check or small, the voice says Henry wrote those lines. Claire Amos, Foundation Counsel, steps in with a folder. She looks from Zuri to Margaret, then to Whitaker. "Mrs. Lancaster," Claire says. "You signed some checks." He wrote the pledge. Margaret flushes. "This is not the time." "It is exactly the time," Claire says. The monitors blip faster. The oxygen cannula hisses. A resident hovers near the door, unsure whether to wait or move. Nurse Kamara taps the call button. "We are rolling to imaging in 3, she says. Zuri looks up at Margaret one last time. "Please," Zuri says. "Let me put the flower on his table." Margaret reaches for the security phone. Henry's fingers twitch again. A code tone starts to chirp. "Keep watching." The next moment decides who gets heard and who gets moved aside. Zuri stands in the hall with Tasha. 2 chairs, 2 paper cups of water. The marigold waits on her lap. The The prayer stays folded. Nurse Kamara steps out. "We're taking him for a scan," she says. "Sit tight here. Will the flower help?" Zuri asks. "It helps me," the nurse says. "That counts." Whitaker meets with legal at the far end. He keeps his voice low. He thinks no one hears. Zuri hears pieces. "Hippo exposure. Media risk," he says. "Shut it down." Claire Amos leans on the opposite wall. She listens to nothing. She calculates everything. She texts someone. "Find the pledge letters with Henry's handwriting," she writes. Breakfast program. Year 1. Zuri presses the marigold to her cheek for a second. She thinks about the first day, the trays held fresh fruit and hot oatmeal. She thinks about the principal who cried in a closet because the pantry was empty the week before. "Why is the lady so angry?" Zuri asks. Tasha squeezes her shoulder. "Grief is loud," she says. "Pain can look like pride." Zuri nods. She reads her prayer again in silence. Short lines. Simple words. "Thank you for his breath. Thank you for his hand. Please give him rest. Please make him brave. Please make me brave too." A woman in a long cardigan walks up. Chaplain Rivera. Soft voice. Bright eyes. "I heard about your flower," the chaplain says. "I can help bring it inside." Whitaker appears as if called. "No unauthorized access," he says. "Family only." "Compassionate moment is authorized," the chaplain says. "I will stand with her." "Not without consent," Whitaker says. The wife holds proxy. "Not for everything," Claire says. She holds up a form. Mr. Lancaster's advance directive includes a clause for community visits at physician discretion for morale. He wrote it after his bypass. He hid it under a cover sheet labeled boring. Whitaker scans the form. His jaw ticks. Policy still requires a safety plan. Nurse Kamara returns with a tech. "Vitals trending better," she says. "Not fixed. Not fragile." He asked for the flower again. Margaret returns from phone call. Her eyes look sharper now. She faces Claire. "Control this," she says. "Our name will not turn into a circus." "Your name is not the point," Claire says. "His values are." Zuri stands. She holds the marigold with both hands. "Please," she says. The chaplain nods. 1 minute at the threshold, she says, "I will hold the door." Nurse stays inside. No photos. No press. If he shows distress, we end it. Whitaker considers the crowd. He wants to say no. He hears the word lawsuit in the back of his mind. He looks at the chaplain. He looks at Claire's form. 60 seconds, Whitaker says. No closer than the bed rail. No touching lines. No sound above normal speech. "Thank you," Zuri says. They enter. Margaret stays by the footrail with a look that says she is counting every second. Zuri stops at the mark on the tile. She lifts the marigold. She places it on the bedside table. She unfolds her paper. She speaks. "Thank you for his breath," Zuri says. "Thank you for his hand. Please give him rest. Please make him brave. Please make me brave too." Henry opens his eyes. Not wide. Enough. He looks at the flower. He looks at Zuri. His mouth moves. No words. A hint of a smile. A tremor runs through the bed rail. The monitors hold steady. The tone softens. "Time," Margaret says. Zuri nods. She backs away. She stops at the door and looks back once. "Mr. Henry," she says. "Breakfast first." Nurse Kamara blinks hard. Claire clears her throat. The chaplain squeezes Zuri's shoulder. They step into the hall. Zuri lets out a breath she did not know she was holding. She leans against Tasha for a second. A young reporter jogs up. She holds a phone. "Little one," she says. "Can I ask?" Whitaker steps between them. "No interviews," he says. "This is a hospital." The reporter backs off. She looks at Claire. "Is it true?" she asks. "He wrote the breakfast pledge." Claire nods. "Yes," she says. "He wrote it in pencil, then traced it in pen. He argued about commas." Margaret hears it. Her face shifts. The lines around her mouth soften by a degree. She looks at Zuri like she is seeing a person and not a problem. "Who told you that line?" Margaret asks Zuri. "No one," Zuri says. "He wrote it. We taped it by the door." Nurse Kamara smiles. "Of course you did," she says. The elevator pings. A surgical team rolls a bed toward the room. The fellow speaks fast. "Blockage looks crisp," he says. We're going to cath lab. Margaret nods. Do it, she says. The team moves with purpose. The doors swing. The room empties. As the doors close, Claire's phone buzzes. A photo arrives. Henry in his study holding the original breakfast pledge. Date stamp clear. The center line reads, "From Henry. Give this to the girl if I cannot speak." Do not stop here. The next turn exposes who tried to bury his values and why the board cares about silence. Conference room, C has a long table and short patience. The Lancaster Foundation board sits in gray suits and measured smiles. On one side sit Margaret and Whitaker. On the other side sit Claire, the chaplain, and Nurse Kamara in plain clothes after a shift. Tasha and Zuri sit near the wall with small bottles of water. A screen shows the photo Claire received. Henry holds the pledge in his hands. His pencil scrawl sits under the traced pen. Breakfast first. Board chair Nolan Sykes clears his throat. We appreciate sentiment, he says. We must steer public perception. The hospital scene could fuel a narrative we do not control. The narrative is a man who said, "Feed kids," Claire says, and a child who brought him a flower. We have brand risk, Sykes says. We aim to close exposure. Expose what? Nurse Kamara asks. A 60-second prayer. Whitaker folds his hands. If we allow random visitors, we invite chaos. The chaplain looks at him. You invited a child and a prayer, she says. Chaos stayed outside. Sykes lifts a file. We have donor events. We have naming rights. If the public thinks an 8-year-old wrote our agenda, we lose leverage. 7, Zuri says. I am 7. Sykes blinks. He did not expect to be corrected by a child. Margaret speaks for the first time. Her tone is low. I am his wife, she says. I kept his calendar. I kept the doors shut when people tried to waste him. You kept some doors shut too long, Claire says. Margaret's eyes flash. You think he needed strangers more than he needed me. Zuri steps to the edge of her chair. She holds the marigold stem like a pencil. He needed you, Zuri says. He also needed breakfast to happen when kids got to school. Silence moves across the table. Claire clicks to the next slide. A chart appears. Breakfast program launch dates. Attendance. Nurse visits for fainting spells before and after. The bars tell a clean story. Fewer fainting spells. More attention in class. Higher reading scores. Henry followed the data, Claire says. He also followed his gut. Sykes leans back. We still face risk, he says. The hospital will not allow scenes like this again. Whitaker clears his throat. We plan a tighter visitor policy, he says. Family only means family only. Claire does not blink. Henry's directive says otherwise, she says. It gives physicians discretion tied to morale and healing. You try to close that, you invite a court to open it. Sykes taps his pen. Enough, he says. We take a vote to distance the foundation from this incident. Nurse Kamara looks at Tasha. Tasha looks at Zuri. Zuri takes a breath. Can I speak? Zuri asks. Sykes half smiles. 3 minutes, he says. Zuri stands. She does not step toward the table. She stays by her chair. She holds up her folded paper, then sets it down. Some mornings I felt small, Zuri says. My stomach was loud. My head hurt. Then the trays came. I ate. I could listen. I could read. The letter on the wall told me who paid and why. No child should sit hungry in a room of words. I learned those words by heart. I am not a brand. I am a person. He is a person. He asked for a flower. I brought one. Tasha wipes one eye. The chaplain nods once. Nurse Kamara smiles. Sykes says nothing. Whitaker says nothing. Claire lets the silence work. The door opens. A cardiologist steps in with a short, clipped sentence that clears every throat in the room. Mr. Lancaster is out of the lab, she says. Stent placed. Flow restored. He is stable. Margaret grabs the edge of the table. Her face falls into her hands for a beat. She lifts it again. Her voice drops to almost a whisper. I want to see him, she says. Not one camera. Not one board member. Me. And the child. Whitaker blinks. Mrs. Lancaster, he starts. Margaret looks at him. Her eyes are cold again, but not cruel. Not you, she says. Sykes frowns. We have communications. We have a man who lived, Margaret says. For once, you will not talk over him. She stands. She looks at Zuri. Gulme. Zuri looks at Tasha. Tasha nods. Go, she says. They step into the hall. Claire gathers the papers and follows. Whitaker stays seated. He stares at his hands. Outside the ICU, a nurse stops them. He is awake, she says. He is asking for the girl with the flower. Stay with this. The next scene closes one door and opens another you did not expect. Henry sits propped against pillows. His face looks pale, not weak. A clear line runs from his hand. The marigold rests on the bedside table in a small paper cup of water. The folded prayer sits under it like a coaster. He sees Margaret first. He squeezes her fingers. She lets out a sound that no one in a boardroom has ever heard from her. Small. Human. Henry looks past her. He sees Zuri. Flower, he says. His voice is rough. His eyes are bright. Zuri steps to the mark on the tile. Nurse Kamara stands at her shoulder. The chaplain and Claire stand near the wall. Mr. Henry, Zuri says. You wrote our breakfast note. I brought it here, too. She lifts Claire's printed photo. The pledge in his hands. You kept my class awake. I wanted to keep you brave. Henry nods. He looks at Margaret. He reaches for the photo. He taps it with his finger. Then he looks at Zuri again. Breakfast first, he says. Margaret takes a breath. She turns to Zuri. I guarded him, she says. Sometimes I guarded too hard. I am sorry. Zuri nods. We all get scared, she says. Henry closes his eyes for a second. He opens them again. He looks at Claire. Bored, he whispers. Later, Claire says. Rest. He shakes his head once. He points at the photo again. He taps twice. Claire understands. Breakfast First Fund, Claire says. We will make it permanent. Margaret looks at her. How much, she asks. Enough to feed every school in the district, Claire says. Then more. Margaret nods. Do it, she says. Put his handwriting on the plaque. Henry smiles with one side of his mouth. He turns to Zuri. Read, he says. Zuri lifts her folded paper. She reads her simple prayer again. The words fit the room like they belong here. Thank you for his breath. Thank you for his hand. Please give him rest. Please make him brave. Please make me brave too. The room is quiet except for the soft beep of the monitor. No one rushes to fill the silence. No one tries to sell a story. People stand and breathe. Later that week, the foundation releases one page. No photo. No quotes. One action. Breakfast First becomes a permanent program with open books and community seats. Hospital policy adds a line that supports compassionate visits at physician discretion, with a clear safety plan and chaplain support. The clause uses Henry's words. Morale helps healing. Whitaker submits a resignation letter. It reads like a purse with nothing in it. The hospital hires a new patient experience lead from a community clinic. She wears sneakers and asks about the vending machines first. Nurse Kamara gets a note in her file. It says, exemplary discretion and care. The staff buys her a plant with orange blooms that look like small suns. Claire frames the photo of Henry with the pledge. She hangs in the foundation lobby at child height, not adult height. People bend to read it. That is the point. Margaret visits Zuri's school. No press. No gowns. She asks to see the breakfast line. She stands by the milk cooler and watches children pick fruit and oatmeal. She touches the edge of a tray like it might drop if she lets it go. She speaks quietly to the principal. No child hungry in a room of words, she says. We will keep that line. Zuri stops by the ICU once more before Henry goes home. She brings a new marigold. She stands at the mark and sets it down. See you at the school garden, she says. We will plant a row. Henry's laugh sounds like a cough and a bell at the same time. Plant two, he says. Zuri looks at Nurse Kamara. 2 rows, she says. Breakfast first. They all smile. It is not big. It is strong. This is a story about a child who gave a small thing that carried weight. A flower. A prayer. A line remembered. A widow who learned to share a door. A system that heard a rule and wrote it down. Breakfast first. People first. Policy next. These are life lessons. Subscribe to Echoes of Black Struggles for new stories on dignity, courage, and change. Share this with one person who keeps showing up with small gifts that move big rooms. Then tell us in the comments which line you will put on your wall and why.